Before the streets knew their names, they knew their footsteps. Two kids, same age, same block, same hunger for something bigger than concrete walls. They grew up believing loyalty could save them from everything life had taken. And for a long time, it did. This story isn't about crime glamorized or easy money fantasies. It's about brotherhood tested by power, by jealousy, and by the wrong kind of love. It's about how silence can be stronger than words, and lies louder than gunshots. About how one decision can erase years of shared history in a single second. You'll hear how small choices slowly turn into irreversible paths. How success changes the way people look at you, and the way you look at yourself. How a woman enters quietly, not to love, but to divide. And how the streets never forget when a sacred rule is broken. This is a story of rise and collapse. Of money that couldn't buy peace. Of power that couldn't protect loyalty. And of a Christmas night that turned into permanent mourning. So stay with me until the end. Because when you hear the music that inspired this story, you'll realize it wasn't just a song, it was a warning. If this story already hit something inside you, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. More stories like this are waiting for you. They were born in the same year, on the same side of the city nobody put on postcards. Concrete buildings stacked like forgotten thoughts, paint peeling like old wounds. The air carried the smell of grease, damp stairwells, and dreams that aged too fast. Two black kids learning early that innocence doesn't survive long where they lived. Police lights painted their walls blue and red more often than sunlight did. Mothers prayed in silence, fathers disappeared into shifts or into nothing at all. From the jump, they understood the world wasn't built with them in mind. They met as kids, but bonded like soldiers before a war they didn't choose. Same bus stop, same torn backpack, same stomach growling through math class. If one got bullied, both showed up the next day with fists clenched and jaws tight. Trust wasn't taught, it was earned in moments where fear tested loyalty. They shared music through cheap headphones, dreaming louder than the city allowed. Every laugh was a shield, every joke a way to stay human. Without saying it, they became family. School felt like a hallway that never led anywhere worth going. Teachers talked about futures that didn't look like anyone they knew. College sounded like a fairy tale told to keep kids calm and seated. They watched classmates disappear into the streets, then into prison photos. Education felt slow, but hunger was immediate and loud. They didn't hate learning, they hated waiting while life passed them by. So they started learning from the block instead. At night, they sat on cold steps watching older guys pull up in shiny rides. Gold chains glimmered like proof that escape was possible. Those men weren't smarter, just bolder, louder, less afraid of consequences. Money talked louder than morals in that neighborhood. Respect came quick when fear followed behind it. They noticed how people stepped aside, how voices lowered. That image planted something dangerous in their minds. They made promises without words, sealed by shared silence. If one fell, the other would pull him up, no matter the cost. They swore they'd never snake each other, never let money come between them. Brotherhood became their religion, loyalty their only law. In a place where everyone watched their back, they watched each other's front. They believed friendship could beat poverty if held tight enough. That belief would soon be tested. Every small win felt like proof they were meant for more. A stolen moment of joy, a few extra dollars, a sense of control. They tasted independence in tiny, reckless ways. Nothing violent yet, nothing loud, just bending rules they felt never served them. The streets started whispering opportunities instead of warnings. And that whisper sounded a lot like freedom. They didn't know it yet, but the line had already been crossed. At first, it didn't even feel like crime, just little shortcuts around a rigged system. A candy bar slipped into a pocket, a bottle lifted when no one was watching. Their hearts raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of getting away clean. Nobody chased them, nobody noticed, and that silence felt like permission. They laughed it off, calling it luck, calling it survival, calling it nothing serious. In their minds, nobody got hurt, nobody lost sleep over it. That's how danger starts, quiet and convincing. They learned quickly which stores had blind spots and which clerks looked tired enough not to care. They memorized routines like it was homework the school never gave them. A snatch and go here, A quick grab there, always fast, always smooth. Each success made the next move feel easier, lighter, almost deserved. The streets rewarded boldness faster than classrooms ever did. Fear faded, replaced by confidence that bordered on arrogance. They started believing consequences were for other people. Money came in small amounts, but it felt huge in their hands. A few crumpled bills meant food without asking, sneakers without waiting. They could help at home, pay a bill, feel useful for once. That feeling hooked them deeper than the cash itself. Power doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers, "You're in control now." They walked taller, talked louder, felt seen for the first time. The block noticed the change before they did. They told themselves it was temporary, just a phase, just until something better came along. Everyone says that at the beginning, and everyone believes it. They promised each other they wouldn't go too far. No weapons, no violence, no real trouble, just smart moves. Rules made them feel safe, like they were still good kids underneath. But rules bend easily when nobody enforces them. And nobody was enforcing anything. Older guys started nodding at them, subtle signs of approval. Nothing spoken, just looks that said, "I see you." Respect crept in slowly, like fog settling over familiar streets. They felt closer to the life they'd been watching for years. That proximity made temptation louder than caution. Being noticed felt better than being warned. They didn't realize who was really watching. The city stayed quiet, no cops, no alarms, no sudden endings. Every clean escape reinforced the idea that they were untouchable. Luck started feeling permanent, like a skill they had mastered. They confused absence of punishment with proof they were right. That false safety wrapped around them like armor. But armor built on luck cracks fast. And deeper opportunities were already circling. Those small moves weren't enough anymore, not after tasting ease and control. The rush faded quicker, the money felt smaller every time. They started looking at bigger targets with familiar curiosity. What once felt risky now felt necessary. The streets that raised them began demanding more commitment. And childhood started slipping away, unnoticed, step by step. Something bigger was coming, whether they were ready or not. Time moved fast once they stopped counting years and started counting moves. Childhood faded somewhere between late nights and early mornings on the block. They weren't kids anymore, but they weren't fully grown either. The streets don't wait for maturity, they force it. Every decision carried more weight now, more eyes, more consequences. What began as games slowly turned into strategy. And strategy demanded commitment. They started running with older crews, just on the edges at first. Watching how deals were made, how words were chosen carefully. They learned when to speak and, more importantly, when to stay quiet. Mistakes weren't laughed off anymore, they were remembered. Trust became currency, and loyalty was always being tested. The margin for error shrank with every step forward. Growing up happened fast in that environment. The money changed too, not just in amount, but in meaning. It stopped being pocket cash and started becoming leverage. Bills were paid quicker, problems disappeared faster. People treated them differently when money spoke for them. Respect arrived wrapped in fear, and fear felt powerful. They didn't chase validation anymore, it followed them. That shift rewired how they saw themselves. Crimes escalated quietly, like a rising tide no one stops to measure. Small robberies turned into coordinated hits, planned and timed. They didn't feel reckless, they felt professional. Every successful run sharpened their confidence and dulled their caution. Adrenaline became routine, danger became normal. The line between necessity and greed blurred. And neither of them wanted to admit it. They told themselves they were still in control. That they could stop whenever they wanted, step away clean. That lie is easy to believe when things are going right. Success has a way of silencing doubts. They trusted each other more than the system, more than the law. Brotherhood felt like armor thick enough to stop anything. They hadn't tested it yet. Their names started circulating beyond their block. Nothing loud, just whispers moving through the city. Doors opened faster, introductions felt heavier. They were no longer observers, they were participants. The city began recognizing them as players, not kids. With recognition came opportunity. And opportunity rarely comes without a price. They didn't notice how the streets started asking for more loyalty. More risk, more involvement, more blood on decisions. What once felt optional now felt expected. Walking away started sounding like betrayal. The pace of life accelerated, pulling them forward. They were running now, not walking. And something unexpected was about to enter their story. She showed up like most trouble does, quietly, almost polite at first. Not announced, not invited, just suddenly present in their orbit. A familiar face in unfamiliar places, a smile that lingered a second too long. The kind of woman the streets notice before the men do. She didn't ask questions, she observed, listened, absorbed everything. In a world built on silence, she spoke softly but carried weight. And both of them felt it, even if neither said a word. At first, she was just background noise in their growing empire. A laugh at the corner, a shared drink after a long night. She knew how to make people feel seen without saying much. Her presence didn't disrupt their rhythm, it blended into it. That's how danger earns trust, by not demanding attention. She learned their routines, their moods, their unspoken rules. Information gathered quietly is always the most powerful. Meanwhile, the crimes grew darker, heavier, more suffocating. Jobs required planning, coordination, and absolute commitment. Mistakes weren't forgiven anymore, they were punished. The adrenaline wasn't exciting now, it was exhausting. Sleep came light, dreams came violent. They carried tension in their shoulders like extra weight. Still, neither wanted to slow down. Blood wasn't spilled yet, but the threat hovered close. Every move felt like it could tip the balance. Guns became present without being mentioned. They existed in glove compartments, waistbands, and silent glances. Violence didn't arrive suddenly, it crept in. It waited patiently for the right misunderstanding. And misunderstandings were starting to form. She noticed the differences between them before they did. One spoke louder, moved faster, demanded respect openly. The other stayed calm, calculated, respected by quiet authority. Two paths rising from the same beginning. She watched how others reacted differently to each of them. Power reveals cracks when observed closely. And she was watching closely. The streets were buzzing, but unease replaced celebration. Money flowed, but peace did not follow. Enemies multiplied as fast as allies disappeared. Trust narrowed to a dangerous few. Every laugh felt forced, every silence too loud. The brotherhood still stood, but pressure tested its seams. And pressure always finds weak points. No one realized how fragile everything had become. They believed loyalty alone could hold the structure together. But loyalty is tested not by hunger, but by desire. And desire had quietly entered the room. The city didn't feel the shift yet, but it was coming. Something unseen was tightening its grip. And the next chapter wouldn't be about business anymore. She stopped being just a presence and started becoming a voice. Not loud, not obvious, just carefully placed words at the right moments. A comment here, a question there, always wrapped in concern. She never accused, she suggested. She never attacked, she planted doubt. That's how manipulation survives so long without being noticed. It wears the mask of care. She started praising one while subtly diminishing the other. Talking about leadership, vision, who really moved the city. The rise of one friend became impossible to ignore. Crews listened when he spoke, deals closed faster around him. Respect followed him like a shadow. The other noticed it too, even if he pretended not to. Power has a sound, and everyone hears it eventually. She leaned into moments of weakness, catching him when he was tired. After long nights, after heavy jobs, after narrow escapes. She spoke about loyalty like it was fragile glass. Asked questions that stayed echoing long after she left. "Do you really trust him?" was never said, but always implied. Seeds don't need much water to grow. Just time and silence. The streets felt the shift before the brothers did. Whispers changed tone, alliances rearranged themselves. Some crews sided more openly with the rising one. Others waited, watching for cracks to widen. Leadership creates envy, but it also creates isolation. And isolation makes people vulnerable. She understood that better than anyone. The other friend stayed loyal, stayed quiet, stayed disciplined. He dismissed rumors, brushed off sideways looks. Brotherhood meant more to him than status. He believed history together outweighed ambition. That belief made him blind in ways strength never could. Trust can be noble and still be fatal. That truth hadn't reached him yet. She pushed harder, more confident now. Her tone shifted from subtle to urgent. Fear became her favorite weapon. She painted scenarios where betrayal was inevitable, where hesitation meant death, where love demanded protection at any cost. And cost was about to be calculated. Tension wrapped around the city like a tightening wire. Every move felt watched, every silence suspicious. The Brotherhood still stood on the surface. But underneath, cracks spread quietly. Loyalty was being questioned without evidence. And once doubt enters, it never comes alone. The next step wouldn't be whispers anymore. By the time he hit the top, the city didn't say his name casually anymore. People lowered their voices, like the air itself had learned respect. He wasn't just one of the guys now, he was the guy decisions revolved around. Cars changed, clothes changed, even the way doors opened for him changed. He walked through neighborhoods that once treated him like background noise, and now heads turned. Not because they loved him, but because fear and admiration look almost the same from a distance. And in that world, being feared was its own kind of applause. Money poured in like a river with no off switch. Stacks in shoeboxes, duffel bags in closets, cash counted on kitchen tables. New furniture, new TVs, fresh chains that caught light like trophies. He moved his mom out of the projects, at least tried to, because guilt doesn't disappear just because you're rich. He paid bills before they became emergencies, handed out help like a king tossing coins. And for a moment, it looked like the dream worked. Like the streets finally paid back what they stole from him as a kid. The crew around him tightened like a private army. Lookouts on every corner, runners on every block, phones always buzzing. Meetings in back rooms, code words, schedules, routes. He learned to read people the way teachers read textbooks, fast, cold, accurate. A smile could be a threat, a handshake could be a test. He didn't relax anymore, he just paused. Because the top doesn't come with peace, it comes with pressure. His best friend stayed close, always nearby, always solid. Not a yes man, not a parasite, not a fan. He was the anchor, the one who remembered the old promises on those cracked steps. The one who could still look him in the eye and speak like a brother, not a soldier. That kind of loyalty is rare when money starts talking loud. So rare it becomes suspicious to outsiders. And she noticed that too. Because she didn't look at loyalty the way men do. She looked at it like competition. And the more powerful he became, the more she resented who stood beside him. She watched the way he trusted his friend without hesitation. The way he listened, the way he softened, just slightly, around him. She hated that softness, because it wasn't hers. To her, it felt like she was dating a king, but sharing the throne. She started seeing everything as proof she was second place. If he gave his friend a glance, she read it like betrayal. If he laughed at an old story, she felt excluded, almost humiliated. If he moved fast to protect his friend in a tense moment, she took it personal. Some people don't want love. They want ownership. And ownership can't tolerate a brotherhood that existed before her. So her jealousy stopped being emotion and became strategy. The city gave him everything on the outside: money, status, control. But inside, he carried invisible weight, paranoia, sleepless nights, constant calculation. He kept a weapon close not because he wanted violence, but because violence wanted him. He trusted fewer people each week. He started checking Asonier faces the way you scan a street at night, looking for movement. And that exhaustion made him vulnerable to the wrong voice at the wrong time. The kind of vulnerability that doesn't look like weakness until it's too late. And she fed on that vulnerability like it was fuel. She leaned in when he was tired, spoke when he was stressed, comforted him with poison inside the words. She made it sound like she was protecting him, when really she was isolating him. And little by little, she positioned herself closer to the center of his decisions. Not with force, with patience. Because the scariest traps don't snap loudly, they close softly. And what came next would prove that someone can live in luxury and still lose everything in one night. That night didn't feel different at first, and that's what made it cruel. No thunder, no warning, just cold air and heavy silence. Christmas lights blinked a few blocks away, mocking the mood of the streets. People were wrapping gifts while others were loading weapons. Joy and death sharing the same calendar, the same city. The kind of irony the hood knows too well. Fate doesn't dress up for big moments. The lie had already done its work long before the gun came out. Every word she planted replayed in his mind like a broken record. Doubt stacked on doubt until trust felt reckless. He saw his brother walking toward him, calm, unaware, unarmed. A man who never flinched for him, never crossed him, never sold him out. But fear doesn't need proof, it only needs repetition. And fear had been fed daily. The confrontation was brief, clumsy, painful to witness. No dramatic speech, no villain monologue. Just confusion, raised voices, shaking hands. His brother tried to talk, tried to reach him through memory and loyalty. He spoke about childhood, about promises, about protection. He even turned his back, a final gesture of trust. That was the moment the world broke. The gunshot echoed louder than anything the block had heard in years. It didn't just take a life, it shattered history. The body hit the ground, and with it, the last excuse disappeared. Blood pooled on concrete that once held two kids dreaming together. Neighbors froze behind curtains, hearts pounding in silence. Sirens followed, but they were already too late. Some things can't be undone, no matter how fast help arrives. News traveled faster than police radios ever could. The hood felt it like a collective punch to the chest. People cried not just for the dead man, but for what he represented. A loyal soldier, a real one, respected across crews. Even rivals felt disgust, shaking their heads in disbelief. There are rules in the streets, and brotherhood is one of them. That rule had just been violated. The crew below didn't mourn quietly. Anger replaced grief almost immediately. Whispers turned into meetings, meetings into plans. They didn't see a tragic mistake, they saw weakness. A leader manipulated, a brother killed over a woman. That kind of stain doesn't wash off. And in that world, stains get punished. Christmas morning came with no celebration. No laughter, no music, no peace. Candles replaced decorations, tears replaced prayers. Kids asked questions nobody could answer. Mothers pulled sons closer, knowing it could have been any of them. The streets wore black, heavy with resentment. And revenge was already breathing down their necks. He stood there alone, surrounded by wealth that suddenly meant nothing. Money couldn't buy forgiveness. Power couldn't silence judgment. The woman watched the city turn hostile, eyes darting, nerves exposed. What they did created a wave they couldn't outrun. Every corner felt dangerous now. And the streets were getting ready to respond. The streets never needed time to decide what justice looked like. They had already judged the moment the trigger was pulled. A brother killed over jealousy was not tragedy, it was disrespect. And disrespect echoes loud in places built on codes, not laws. The crews didn't argue about what happened, they agreed. Everyone knew she had been poisoned from the start. And everyone knew he chose to drink it. They remembered the signs they ignored when it was still early. The sideways looks, the whispered lies, the manufactured fear. She never wanted love, she wanted control. She never wanted protection, she wanted exclusivity. From day one, she studied weakness like a blueprint. And weakness isn't failing to love, it's failing to see manipulation. That blindness cost more than money ever could. The hit came fast, clean, and merciless. No speeches, no second chances, no warnings. They caught him in a moment of false calm, false safety. Wealth couldn't shield him, power couldn't negotiate. The same streets that lifted him now swallowed him whole. Fear doesn't respect former kings. It only respects balance being restored. She didn't run fast enough, and she didn't hide well. The city had already erased her protection. To the streets, she wasn't a queen or a lover. She was the spark that burned a brotherhood. That kind of role only ends one way. No sympathy, no mercy, no memory worth saving. Her screams didn't rewrite the past. 2 bodies fell where 1 would have been enough. Not because revenge was sweet, but because rules were broken. Being second is still being something. Being loyal is still being alive. But betrayal leaves you with nothing to stand on. He killed the brother God gave him, and died because he trusted the wrong love. The block didn't celebrate, it exhaled. Like a storm finally passed, leaving wreckage behind. People whispered lessons they wished the dead could hear. That money fades, power shifts, women come and go. But brotherhood, once broken, never returns. Kids grew up faster hearing this story retold. Some walked away from crime because of it. In the end, nobody won. Not the shooter, not the woman, not the streets. Only the truth remained, heavy and unavoidable. That loyalty ignored is more dangerous than poverty embraced. That silence can be sacred or fatal. And that sometimes, the greatest loss isn't dying. It's realizing too late who was really family. This story doesn't end when the last body hits the ground. It lingers, because deep down, everyone knows someone like them. Friends who grew up together, swore loyalty, shared dreams, and still fell apart. So the real question isn't about crime or money. It's about choice. At what point does desire blind loyalty? And how many warning signs do we ignore before it's too late? Do you believe betrayal is always obvious, or does it wear the face of love? If you were in his place, would you have listened to your brother, or to fear? Have you ever seen a friendship destroyed because of jealousy or manipulation? And tell me honestly, which song do you think could inspire a story even heavier than this one? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share the music that deserves to be turned into a story like this. Because here, we don't just listen to songs, we feel them. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, so you don't miss stories told in a way you've never heard before. More music, more emotion, more truth, straight from the streets to your soul.